Hi guys, so in today's video, we are going to be doing an end of the year book tag. I'm going to leave the list of questions down in the description box below, so if you want to use these same questions for your end of the year book tag, then you totally should. I got these questions from Destiny. I liked her questions. I haven't read all of them, so a lot of this really is like blind, which is why I'm like standing up, because I'm going to be like going back and forth between like finding these books because they're somewhere around here. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first question says, hold on. What was the most disappointing read of the year? Oh, you know, I have a great idea. I can also use my bullet journal because I created like a bullet journal, like reading journal type of thing. So I have a lot of books in there. Let me show you. So I have a reading journal spread. This has definitely been inspired by Katie is Reading on YouTube. I was very inspired. So anyway, I'm gonna use this to like kind of help me remember. And I love this one because you can kind of see all the books that I read throughout the year and I have ratings next to them. These are just like the first half of the year. I haven't like updated this, so there's also that. So let's go back to the page that has all of the books that I read with their rating. Most disappointing read. That's a great question. Typically, I like all the books that I read because I tend to do a lot of research beforehand. It looks like, okay, hear me out. So it's looking like Love and Gelato was my most disappointing read of the year. But I also feel like I really did like it. I remember resonating with it because I felt like it was similar to my situation and I felt like I could relate to what was going on in her life. And I love the whole like diary aspect. Like, ooh, I take all of that back of what I just said. I realize this is not updated. I'm gonna say A Study in Drowning was probably my most disappointing read. I really did go into A Study in Drowning with like high hopes, but then like it completely let me down because I feel like it wasn't about what it said it was about. The whole enemies to lover situation was not as like good for me as like other books. It was saying that it was like dark academia, and if that's the case, then I wish it would have like been at school more, which is like academia, you know what I'm saying? So like that was also unusual. I did not like how long the chapters were. Granted, I got through the book pretty quickly because of the chapters were so long, so by the time you get through one chapter you're like, oh my god, like I already read this much, like whoa. But also they were so long and by the end of them you're just like left unfulfilled. So then you're just like, why did I just sit here and read all of that? For like, what was the point of that part, you know? I did like some aspects of it. Like I loved how she like stepped into like, no, I know who I am type of thing. I love how in the end it was giving like, I know who I am, I know what I want, you don't need to tell me, like boss energy type of thing. I feel like she like bossed up in the end and I love that she stood up for herself. That was great. Like wasn't my favorite book, you know? Let's move on to the next question. Okay, question number 2. It says, what was the underdog book of the year? Underdog book of the year. Man, Lessons in Chemistry. Like I know a lot of people have read it, but I have not seen or heard many booktubers that I follow talk about it. I loved it so much. It was like 5 stars for me. It convinced me to buy an apron. It was like, I remember like raving about that book back in the summertime when I read it. Yes, a lot of people did love it because they even adapted it to like a TV show on Apple TV, I believe. But like not a lot of people on the YouTube world is talking about it. But I feel like it's a really freaking good book. It changed the way I viewed myself as a woman. But then as I go through life as a woman, I also realized that there are 2 huge main like differences or split between women. It's like you're either like soft life, you want to live a soft glam life, or you're like boss babe, like you want to be the boss CEO type of life. And then I'm like, why can't we have both? Why can't you be a boss babe and go home and have a soft life or have vacations and you're living in luxury if you want that kind of life? I feel like people get trapped into this or that. I do want to relax and be like spoiled, you know? And I also am a really like strong working person. Like I'm very hardworking and I'm very driven and optimistic, and I feel like if I don't use that part of my life, like I'm gonna go crazy. Like if I leave that part of me dormant, then it's not gonna be good. Lessons in Chemistry kind of makes me think like that, like think about my role as a woman and what society paints for me, how they want me to be as a woman, stuff like that. Let's move on. Okay, question number 3. A book that was overhyped. Okay, I feel like Iron Flame was overhyped. Not because it wasn't a good book. By the way, I DNF'd that book. I just was immediately like bored. The way that Fourth Wing ended had me wanting to like run to the second book because I was like, oh my god, like no way, no way. But then when I got the second book and I started reading it, it was just like very slow. Like all of a sudden it just like hit the brakes. Despite all the crazy stuff that I feel like that was going on, I feel like it would have been better if they kept the action a little bit and then segue into let's talk about this. I don't know, but that's just me. I haven't finished it, but I am going to go back and read it because I do want to see how it ends. I actually do like the series a lot. In fact, Fourth Wing was like 5 stars, but I just felt like Iron Flame was like hyped up and then it was very slow with its delivery, if it ever did deliver. So anyway, let's move on. Question number 4 says, what was your favorite book couple of the year? You can have multiple of them. Okay, so listen guys, I only really have one and I just went and got this book off of my bookshelf. This one, Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Like, dude, I absolutely love this pairing, Elsie and Jack, because I love how like they had this connection before they even had a connection. She had this whole different life. Like, she was an adjunct professor, but she had this other job where she like go on fake dates with people to supplement her income. So Jack was this experimental physicist, but then the way that they met was through Elsie's fake date. She went on a fake date and then met Jack, because it's so crazy because Jack was the guy's brother that she went on a date with. Stay with me here, stay with me, okay? So Jack is this guy's brother. So when Jack meets his brother's date, it's Elsie. Fast forward, a job position opens up at like MIT or some like really big school, and so she wants to interview for this job because she's tired of being an adjunct professor and blah 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 blah. She interviews for the job, and guess who is on a hiring panel? Freaking Jack. Oh my god. Oh, I forgot, I left out a very important detail. This is also not a spoiler. When she goes on these fake dates, she doesn't really reveal her actual job. She just says that she's like a librarian or something, right? So Jack sees her as my brother's librarian girlfriend, right? But then she goes to an MIT interview, so Jack's like, what? Like, aren't you a librarian? I'ma just leave you with that. That's enough for me alone to be like, wait, what happens? Like, I have to continue reading. Like, that is, yeah. And I just love, yeah. So you have to absolutely read this book. So you have to read this book. Loved it, loved it. Okay, question number 5. What was my favorite main character of the year? Or more than one of the year? That's a great question. Let's see. You know who? I read this book very recently. It's called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Let me go get it. This one has got to be the one. What's her name? Clementine. I loved Clementine. One thing that I love about her, she allowed herself to change despite how hard she worked to get into this career that she got into. She went to college for one thing, fell in love with this thing, and then she pursued it for like several years, and then all of a sudden she became interested in something else. And like, that was okay, you know? And I love that this book just like humanized changing your career, changing where you live, changing everything that you think you know about someone, because you realize that you change and people change. And I love that. I also love the character in this book, daughter of the Pirate King. What was her name? Alosa. I love her because she was also like a boss woman. She finally stepped into her role as like not just like the daughter of some huge man. Like, she is her own person. And then the craziest thing is like people who she had been trusting her whole life was lying to her. Once she found out basically that everything she thought she knew was like not correct, that completely changed everything. Like obviously, right? And then to see her go through that period of like grief or like feeling like you lost a person, she always remained grounded in herself. And so that was really cool to read. And it really, like, I feel like this book empowered me. I also read this book around the same time that I read Lessons in Chemistry. I feel like I read it back to back, and it was just like girl power heavy. I love both of those characters too. What was her name? Bonnie or something like that. No, wait, that's the author's name. Elizabeth Zott from Lessons in Chemistry. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, question number 6 is, what was a book that surprised you? Okay, let me be honest. I feel like Happy Place by, what was her name? She's a popular one. Emily Henry, Happy Place by Emily Henry surprised me. Let me go get it. Happy Place. Honestly, I had no idea what this book was even about when I went and bought it. I remember thinking like, Happy Place, like what is this book about? Like what does that even mean, you know? But when I read it, when I tell you, it left such a huge mark on me. Like I feel like I want all of my friend groups, like any friendship that I have, I want it to be like the friendship in this book. Like I absolutely loved this whole book. Like I completely ate it up. I read it so fast, and it's so crazy like what the story is about. Like it's not about what you would expect. Like that's why it surprised me, because based on the synopsis, it's like these two people were dating. What are their names? Let me go back and remind myself. Harriet and Wynn. Harriet and Wynn were dating. They were even engaged, and for like reasons unknown to the friend group and to us as the reader, they broke up. But then they have this annual trip where they go to this place in the cottage or whatever every year, and the whole friend group goes. And so basically they know each other so well, so well, that they're like, how are we going to convince the people who know us best that we are still together even though we're broken up? So then my question is like, why didn't they want to tell them in the first place that they were broken up? Like what are y'all hiding? Like why hide it, you know? Why did y'all break up, first of all? And then second of all, like how does it go with them trying to hide it? Like what ends up happening? Also, the fact that they're on a summer vacation at their happy place is just giving like life. Like it gave so much life to me. This was the absolute perfect summer read. It was also about vacationing, but also like love and like friendship and friend groups, and just this book really surprised me. Like I absolutely loved this book. I completely 100% ate it up. I loved it. It was definitely 5 stars. Definitely, without a doubt. So, oh my God, this is a really tough question. What was the most frustrating book you read in 2023? Great question. I feel like the most frustrating book that I read was, I have an idea, but let me make sure I'm sticking with this. This one. This is the book that frustrated me the most. A Court of Thorns and Roses. Because like 75% of this book, I was like, just say it already. Like, what is going on, you know? And like, I feel like this author did a lot of like poking around the whole situation and never really being direct of like what exactly is up, and like, you know? But like some people like that. And once you get through this whole book and you read it, you realize why. You understand like what she was poking around, because then they start to like, whatever. That really frustrated me. I remember thinking like, let me hurry up and read this book so I can figure out what the freak, like, so it was a lot of frustration. And then when I got to the end of the book, my heart started like twisting and turning, which I'll leave a link to the reading vlog where I was reading this book for like 24 hours or whatever, and I talk about this book in grave details. If you're interested in what I think of it, go watch that video. But it really is the same. Like this book frustrated me for those reasons. So if you're curious, like I said, I'll link it below. But yeah, the next question asks, what is the longest book you read this year? And I was gonna say Fourth Wing, but that book is about like 500 pages. I'm currently reading this one, A Court of Mist and Fury, and this book is over 620 pages. Over it. 624 pages, okay? I haven't finished this book yet. I'm like, you know, reading it. But by the time this year is over, I will have finished this book, because I already know. So far, I really do like it. I can't wait to talk about this book. But I realized that this is the second book of the book that I literally just said was so frustrating. So that's also frustrating. You know what I mean? But we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it at some point. Don't worry. So anyway, this book definitely is the longest book that I'm gonna read so far, and I know that it gets longer, so that's cool. The next question is, what was the shortest book you read this year? And I already know what it is. Let me go get it. So this is the shortest book that I've read. It's called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. This is considered a personal growth / self-help book. So you may have read it, you may have heard about it, but this one is a classic. If you're interested in like personal growth, self-help books specifically, I literally just made a whole video with all of the books that I personally love that really helped me become kind of the person that I am today, helped enhance me as a person, and blah, 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 blah. If you're interested in books like that, then you should go watch the video that I'll link in the description box below. But anyway, this book is only 138 pages. So this is definitely the shortest book I've read all year. And I actually read it for the second time this year. I read it before like 2 years ago. So I absolutely love this book. This is a staple. The next question is, a book with my favorite cover. And it has to be Divine Rivals, but not this. This. I love this. I remember when I first discovered this, I was like, I just love the black and gold, and I just love the simplicity behind it. Like, it's literally just a typewriter that says, "Dear Iris." And I just love that. Like, I just remember being so surprised. Yeah, so that's cute. So let's put this back on. The next question is, a book you haven't stopped thinking about. Definitely Lessons in Chemistry. I literally always talk about it. I feel like I became more confident in myself because I realized that like what I think matters. And I feel like it all started when I read Lessons in Chemistry. Like, I really do believe that. Definitely that one. The next question is, an unpopular book you loved. I definitely feel like Daughter of the Pirate King is an unpopular book that I love. I don't even remember when I bought this book, but I remember buying it like a while ago. I remember like buying it a year prior to actually like reading it. So, and then when I read it, I absolutely loved it. It is definitely the book on my list of like, you know, I haven't heard anyone else talk about that book, but I definitely loved it, so. Yeah. The next question asks, what was my favorite quote of the year? And I have it written down already. Let me go get it for you. Oops, excuse me. Sorry, I got a little too close there. This is my bullet journal, but I no longer use this one because I went back to my older one because this one doesn't have like dots. And for me, that's the whole point. It says, this was from June 2023. Whenever you feel afraid, just remember, courage is the root of change. And change is what we're chemically designed to do. By Elizabeth Zott. Don't feel afraid. We're supposed to change. Courage is the root of change. So yeah. So for my 2023 reading goal reflection question, my reading goal for this year was to read 23 books, but I didn't go into the year with that reading goal because I wasn't thinking this way at the beginning of this year, which is crazy because it feels like the beginning of this year was literally just like yesterday. But then I also realized how different I was thinking at that time. Let me adjust. Because the sun is very much going down on me, and so I definitely need to hurry up and wrap up this video. So we're gonna speed through this next portion. So anyway, I didn't go into the year with a reading goal, but I did create a reading goal like around March. So it was pretty early on. It wasn't that late into the game. You know, it wasn't like this month or anything. But my reading goal was to read 23 books, and I went past that. Let me see. I don't think I went past it by much because like I said, I didn't go into the beginning of the year reading that much. So far I've read 26 books and I'm on my 27th one. By the time this year ends, I'm definitely gonna be in the 30 and over kind of zone. So that's cool. I definitely went way over my reading goal. So my reading goal for this upcoming year for 2024 is to read at least 40 books. I did fall into a reading slump several times throughout the year. That doesn't help, but yeah. And then the last question of this end of the year reading tag is really cool. I actually like all of these questions. After 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading wise? That's a great question. And I've kind of already mentioned this a little bit and talked about this at least once or twice, but I really want to start reading different genres. Like I want to read more personal growth books, memoirs, like some more like nonfiction stuff, in addition to reading my romance novels and romantasy and fantasy and science fiction and stuff like that. Like I love all of it, and so I want to make sure I prioritize reading more of several genres instead of just reading a lot of one or two genres. Like I want to expand my horizon. And then I also want to do more audiobooks because I realize I do like podcasts, but I also like books, and there are some really good like personal growth audiobooks that I can listen to that will kind of feel like a podcast in a way. That's how I felt about 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. Like it felt like I was listening to a podcast. Like it really did. So I love that for that. I love Audible for that reason. So that's cool. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me with this video as the sun has gone down and it's definitely getting dark in here. That completely wraps up this end of the year book tag for the year 2023. And I'm so excited for what 2024 has to offer. I cannot wait to step into the new year, the new season. I am the type of girl that loves like a fresh start. So like the beginning of the month, I always love it. I'm always the happiest at the beginning of the month, the beginning of a season. Like I just love like fresh starts and new things. I'm super excited for what 2024 has to offer. I can't wait to read some amazing books that are going to be coming out very soon. If you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up to help other cool people join the community. And if you've read any of these books, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about them. If you have any recommendations for some books that I absolutely must read in 2024, then also leave that below. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video next week. Bye bye.